Let's get into today's episode of Why We Succeed.
Here's a question that I want to get your take on. How do you define success?
Anytime you hit your goal, that's success, right? Because
yes,
it's a situation where whether it's if it's a small goal or a large goal, it's your goal, right? Nobody can take that away from you. If you say, this is what I want to accomplish and you accomplish it, that's success. But that's just how I define it. Anything that you're able to accomplish.
Right. So going back to your experience when you were incarcerated, what was the main proponent, I guess, behind your line of thinking that I may not be able to get back to the position that I was in? Is it because of the stigma that comes along with people being felons, or was it something different for you?
No, it was the stigma. And also knowing convicted felons from my past and, seeing their situations when they came home from prison. Some of them were repeat offenders. Some of them were not. And they just didn't go for whatever it is that they wanted. I mean, maybe they did. Maybe it didn't work out. I don't know for sure. But to me, whatever it is that they went, wherever it is that they landed, it just didn't measure up to the caliber type of person that they were. So in my mind, it was like, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to be able to get my career back. I'm not going to be able to do this because of that. Being a convicted felon and being a Black male in the United States was like, that was it. Like, it was like, how successful can you be with that? And when God gave me the message, you cannot give up on yourself. That was just like, nothing can stop me. Only thing that can stop me is myself. And I'm going after everything that I want. And that's exactly what I do.
Yeah. And I just want to share something with you and everybody watching. One of the main reasons why I wanted to talk to you about this experience, and one of the main reasons why I've never asked you questions about your experience being incarcerated in the past 4 or 5 years, is because to me, that's never defined you. And for the purpose of this podcast, I know that there are people who have had a similar experience. And that's the reason why I really wanted to have you share that part of your story, because there may be other men or women who are feeling like, hey, I was incarcerated, I got out, and things are just not falling into line. And to be motivated, to get some inspiration from somebody that is not just been in a similar situation, but has been able to come out and succeed, excel. And I think that that's vitally important. And I just want you to know, man to man, that I've never, ever felt like that defined you at any moment. I knew it was a part of your story and a part of your journey, but I never look at you and be like, oh man, Calvin was able to overcome being incarcerated and that's why he's able to do X, Y, Z. It's like, nah, that's a part of your story. But like, man, you as a person are just so awesome, so inspiring, so motivating. And you have always been there for me to just help me in those situations where I was going through it, where I was struggling, trying to get things in order. And I just wanted to, get your perspective on when people are incarcerated, how challenging is it or how easy is it to not allow that experience to define them?
It's all about your mindset. It's where you live in your mind. If you live in your mind in a space where you're thinking, I'm not going to be able to make it, nothing's going to work out for me, that's exactly what's going to happen for you. But if you live in a mindset in a space where I'm going to go out here and I'm going to knock down every door and every wall that gets in my way to go after exactly what it is that I want, then that's what you're going to get. You're going to end up getting exactly what you want. It may not happen in the time that you want it to happen, but as long as you continue to press forward and not give up, it's going to happen. That's one of the biggest things. And even for people who had that felony conviction on their record and they come home and they're like, I want to get and they were professionals. Let's say they were professionals in whatever area. And even if they weren't, they figured, I want something better for myself than what I had.
Right.
You have to come out and reestablish yourself in the environment and in the community. You have to do that so that way you can prove that you're functional in the community, and you have people who can back you and represent you and you can use as a reference for credibility for you when you're going to apply for these different opportunities, right? So if you have that, let's say you're working at a McDonald's when you get out of prison, and you work there for a year and you show up every day on time and you work as hard as you can work because, one, you're building up skill sets for yourself, which is something that people don't think they can get from working at a fast food restaurant. But you learn a lot working at a fast food restaurant. I did it for 4 years when I was a teenager. And the skill of customer service is something that'll take you far in life. If you have that skill, you can hone in on that and you can do anything that you want. You can apply for jobs and that are in that customer service area for whatever area of business. And that'll give you opportunities to press forward and take on some new opportunities. And then you have, like I said, you have the references, people who are going to back you and state, so-and-so came to work on time every day. We never had any issues with them. Even though they have the felony conviction, this didn't define who they were, like you said. Because a lot of times when you show up a certain way, even though you have that felony conviction, people forget about it because they don't see that in you, And that was one of the things that I was really pressing on to make sure that I didn't want people to see that. Yes, they know that I have it, but I don't want them to see that that's who I am, because it's not. It was just a period of time in my life. Definitely doesn't define me. I will never let it define me. A lot of times I will, sometimes, and I probably said it here, but I don't say that I am a felon. I'll say I have a felony conviction. Because if I say I'm a felon, that's definition. Right. That puts me in a space where I'm identifying and I'm using that as a part of my identity. And even though that it's on my personal record, it doesn't define who I am.
Not at all.
So, yeah.
Not at all. Yeah, man. And when I think about it, when we first met, just to kind of get some context for our viewers and our listeners, is we met through accountability program through Dr. Shantae. Shout out to her. And I never would, like, if you hadn't have shared that, I never would have thought it. The way you carry yourself, that kind of goes back to your book, which we'll talk about as well. The importance of Black men, especially being immaculate, well-groomed, handling ourselves, and the impact that you have on boys and conveying that message when you go to speak is so, so important. But there was something that you spoke on that is like the heart of this podcast, right? Which is relationships. And I want to take the time to just point that out, because that may be the difference why some people, just to use this as an example, get incarcerated or go through a hard time and then have a challenge coming back out or making it through on the other side and being able to bounce back and get back to where they were, is because where are the relationships? And that's really what we want to point out here on the podcast, is that relationships are the true key to success. It's those people that, whether they can be a reference, whether they're a friend who can say, hey, man, somebody's hiring over here. You know what they say, Calvin. It's what, I can't remember the exact saying, but they say
it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Right. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And that is so, so true. And I appreciate you for pointing that out, because having those references, those people that you can go to who knew your character, is the key.
Right. Yeah, that's a big thing. And when you start to build your network, you have to make sure that, one, you're reaching out and connecting with people who you can help. And two, people who can help you. And I put you helping that person first, because when you're building your network, you don't want to be that person that's always out there meeting new people and trying to figure out what you can get from them. You want to be that person that can be a resource for other people. If you have a product or a service, or someone who has a product or a service that can benefit the person that you're meeting with, or the people that you can promote that. You can be that resource. You can be that conduit, that pass through to get to that next level. So it's major. It's very important to do that.
It is. And going back to something else that you had mentioned earlier, is that mindset. Did you always have that mindset? Was it something that you had to develop along the way?
I think I was always a positive person for the most part. But I would say I was always a positive person, but I also had everybody has demons. I had some demons I was battling with when it comes to having anger issues, because that's basically what landed me in prison. And I just blacked out and did something I shouldn't have done. But it gave me an opportunity to really sit down and really dig into myself when I was in prison. And it was like, you have this positive mindset. This situation is what landed you here because you weren't in control of yourself. Now you got to get yourself under control, so that way when you go back out into the world, you're showing yourself as who you truly are. That issue that I had with anger was just an issue. It's something that I was able to get fixed and still work on to this day. I spent 5 years in anger management therapy, and that was something that has been beneficial to my life, something that I hold near and dear to me. And I rely on those skills and tools that I received in therapy every single day, because we have things that go on in our lives that can easily push our buttons and send us over the edge. I need to make sure that I don't let that happen again. I need to make sure that I'm breathing. One of the biggest things that I tell people on a regular basis is don't forget to breathe, because if you're not breathing, you're allowing your brain and your amygdala to be compromised with stress. And it's that stress circulates around your amygdala and it doesn't give you any opportunities to push oxygen to your brain to push out the stinking thoughts. So take some time to breathe, get yourself together, then you can think clearer thoughts, and then you're able to move forward. So yes, that positive mindset has always been there. I just had to learn how to really hone in on it and use it on a regular basis. Hey everybody, my name is Calvin Purnell Jr. This is great to be on the show, Why We Succeed. I hope this information is going to be impacting to you and powerful for you. I was very happy to be able to share this information with you and Jay. You can find me on any social media platform. If you just type my name in, Calvin Purnell Jr., it will pop up. You'll see a picture of me. On Instagram, you'll see my name come up as Calvin Purnell, but also as Mindfully Speaking. Facebook and Twitter, it's Calvin Purnell Jr., but you'll be able to find me in those spaces, as well as LinkedIn. I do a lot of networking on LinkedIn. You can catch me there as well. And those are the platforms that I use regularly. I also have a couple of books that I wrote too. So if you have interest in purchasing those books after listening to this show, please feel free to purchase them. If you want to get them directly from me, you can email me at cp@cpspeaks.com. I'll say that again, cp@cpspeaks.com. If you want to email me directly and say that you'd like to purchase them from me so that way you can get a signed copy along with a personalized message, we can do that too. I use the different payment platforms as well, so we won't have any issues and we'll be able to go from there. And the books are called Polished: A Young Professional's Guide for Success and Polished: Preparing for What's Next. And I'm also working on the third book and that'll be out shortly. So happy to be here. And if there's anything that I can do for any of you, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to help.